This couple, pictured here, Joel Tenney and his wife, Sarah Elizabeth, accused an innocent black man of claiming that he was going to unalive her and their baby. They made this false claim while literally being 1 to 2 blocks away from the White House, which is currently heavily policed.
This guy just said he wanted to murder our baby as we were walking past, and now they're gonna put him under arrest. He said, "I'm gonna murder your wife and baby."
Yeah, he literally said that. This guy right there, when we're walking past.
So we're gonna press charges.
He said he wanted to kill our white baby. How sick can people be? This is disgusting. I'm completely outraged. You can't even walk down the streets of Washington, D.C. without people acting like this. Thank God we reported it to the police and they're dealing with the guy. I cannot believe
it gets much worse because it becomes blatantly obvious that they're trying to pull some more Emmett Till setup type shit.
Don't bring your kids down here. It's not safe.
Don't bring your kids to D.C.
It's not safe at all.
Last night, while heading home from Joe's Seafood on 1500 Pennsylvania Avenue, 1 block from the White House, a black man approached my wife and my baby and I and said, "I'm going to kill your white girl. I'm going to kill your effing white baby." And he repeated it many times, and then he continued to call my wife a white B-word multiple times. And I had half a mind to stomp his head in, but instead I went to the Secret Service, which was a block away from us, and I told them what he had said. The man was subsequently arrested, and he has now been brought on charges by the U.S. Attorney General's office, felony charges for felony threats and hate and bias crime.
And also, we found out later that he had a knife in his pocket, so that was extremely terrifying.
So this is unbelievable. This shouldn't be happening in the capital of the United States of America. Families like ours should feel safe. We have 5 other children at home that were with grandma, luckily, that night. We're not even from here, we're from Iowa. And to have to suffer that after losing our friend Charlie Kirk, who I worked for, and then this, it's unbelievable. And America, you need to do better. Racism, reverse racism, it's all wrong, it's all evil. Turn to Jesus, believe the gospel, repent of your sins, be renewed in your mind, in your thinking. Love one another, love your neighbor as yourself, as Jesus commands. We need to seek God. This is not acceptable.
Get a load of that smile when the video ends. Let's move on.
So my understanding is that you would like us to charge this as a hate crime from the beginning, and so because you were starting to talk about facts of the case, as I explained earlier, I cannot talk about facts of the case without an officer witness on the line. So let me ask you real quickly. So the facts that I understood were that he threatened to kill you, Sarah, and your quote-unquote white baby. Is that correct?
Yes. He said he's going to kill. He said he was speaking to me. He said, "I'm going to kill your girl and your effing white baby."
Okay.
And then he repeatedly called my wife a white B-word. And it was for 100% a hate crime. If I would have said that to a black man, his wife and baby...
Sir, I'm going to stop you right here. I appreciate where you are going with this. I in no way, shape, or form disagree with you that this sounds like a hate crime. But I want to explain to you how our process works.
Okay.
So.
And then they cut the video off because things are not going in the direction that they hoped for. They try to spew their rhetoric, and this woman was not having it. So shout out to her for doing her job. Let's move on. Okay, this is the most recent one, and I want you all to pay very close attention to everything they say down to the caption in this video, because they are so outrageously frustrated that they don't even realize they're telling on themselves.
Bias. Okay.
Yeah.
And then
So these will be felony threats with a hate bias enhancement. And so what that does is that changes the possibility, the way we, the possibility of sentencing, the kind of plea that's given, plea offer. No, I don't have any knowledge of a violent history. Not at this time, but let me actually, 1 second. I would have to do some digging into his history in order to be able to.
you might have to do a little research because you got about an hour and a half, and if this guy is a violent offender, hold on,
I don't have.
you don't have to give us any information, but if this guy is a violent offender and there is some legal precedent to hold him, then he needs to be held because he could be a danger to the public and he could go and stab some baby. He could kill some baby. You know? That's not safe to have people like that are that unhinged on the streets in our capital city of the United States of America.
A block from the
A block
president.
from the White House. We were on 1500 Pennsylvania. That's insane.
I do not. I would love to have a conversation with you about it, but I honestly cannot. And like I said, if I have a legal basis to ask for him to be held, I will ask for him to be held. At this time, I don't know of a legal basis for me to ask for him to be held.
Well,
Which means the court doesn't have a legal basis to hold him.
well, Barb, do some digging. That's all I'm going to say. Because if he gets out and he does something, I swear this is going to be very bad for everybody. Very bad for everybody. It's not going to be good for the district. It's not going to be good for the U.S. Attorney's Office. It's not going to be good. It's going to be national public television. Everybody's going to know about it. I literally know President Trump personally. It's not a good situation. I shouldn't have to feel like my wife is going to be killed and my baby is going to be killed, and then some violent offender gets released back on the streets of Washington, D.C.
And we don't even know his criminal background.
We don't know. We don't know who we're dealing with here, so we don't feel safe.
What
at
if
this
it's
point.
what if it's the same thing like the guy in North Carolina where they let him out 14 times, and then he goes and kills somebody? That guy should not have been on the streets, and I don't think this person should be on the streets either.
Listen, you seem like a really nice lady, Barb, and I know there's more that you guys can do. So I'm hoping that you guys will figure out something.
I mean,
because I
even
don't
a
want him
mental
released.
asylum, like, is there a mental hospital he can go to or something?
Or
That's
a
not...
homeless shelter or something. Something to keep him away from people.
I hear you.
Any questions? You guys, this is very interesting. So this comment says, this is the same people that posted a video of teasing their daughter about being born when Biden was president and their sons being born under Trump to the point that they made their daughter cry. I'm going to be proactive in potentially helping to save the life of this black man because I'm pretty sure that sooner or later, these people are going to show you who he is because they already put a huge target on his back. So I'm going to give you guys another example of how much these people lie and how disingenuous they are. In case you want to say hi, this is the husband's platform. And this is the wife's platform. I'm going to show you this video, and this is actually from the husband's IG. And the caption says, transgender activists showed up to our church this morning, the first Sunday after Charlie Kirk's passing. What happens next is crazy.
So guys, this is crazy, but I'm outside of church here. And there are trans activists inside the church because they're trying to intimidate the pastor not to speak about what happened to Charlie Kirk or his life or ministry or turning point, whatever. So they're trying to use fear and intimidation tactics, but the pastor's preaching like the best sermon he's ever preached, and it's really powerful. He hasn't touched on Charlie Kirk at all, but the gospel is being preached, and he's also sharing what our church has been doing as far as campus ministry is concerned. And it's really, really powerful, very, very positive, very uplifting. But it's all about the gospel and about kingdom, and it's amazing. And he talked about how we're supposed to be countercultural and we're not supposed to blend in, that the gospel is countercultural, that Jesus was countercultural. And he's just doing like the best job I've ever heard of him do. Like, this is the best sermon so far, but I had to step out for a second to tell you this.
You heard everything he said, right? Okay, The next day, he made a comment under that video and he pinned it. And I'm going to read to you what the comment says. Today, on the first Sunday after Charlie Kirk's passing, something remarkable happened at church. About 10 transgender individuals came to the service. At first, some feared they might have come to disrupt or even cause harm. But by the end of the service, most of them were in tears and gave their lives to Jesus without Charlie Kirk even being mentioned. However, the pastor mentioned a similar story with nearly the same outcome, except the villain became a believer and brought people to Christ on death row. Our church is the largest in the area, but it usually doesn't reach full capacity, not even half. I wonder why. But today, however, it was completely full, overflowing with people, hearts open to God. Then the wife posted this. At church today, there was trans and woke people that came. Our church was the fullest I've ever seen. Many souls came to Christ today at our church. Charlie is smiling from heaven. What about what you said in this video, sir? It's not adding up. It's like they're trying to fix the first lie with the second lie, while the first lie is still posted. Now, this part has to do with them being disingenuous when it comes to black people. You see, here are the videos where he talks about a black man that supposedly threatened his wife and baby. But then you see this one in the middle of it. So he was at the Burger King drive-thru and he filmed himself giving the black male employee a $100 bill. And the caption reads, "I've always treated people of color with love, compassion, and kindness, as Jesus said we should treat others as we would like to be treated. Not all black people are mean or rude or full of hate like the guy who wanted to murder my wife and baby." Do you want to know when this video was recorded? March of 2022. Nothing says I'm a racist like being blatantly racist and then recording yourself giving a random black person a large sum of money. He really thought that video was going to make him look good when in fact it made him look 100 times worse. All of us in the BIPOC community need to be careful. We need to keep our heads on a swivel so it doesn't end up on a chopping block. Take care of yourselves.
Good morning, good people, and happy Friday. So the MAGA couple, Joel Tenney and Sarah Elizabeth Tenney, that got an innocent black man arrested in D.C., have both limited their comments on their pages and in Joel's case have gone private. And I want us to be very clear, until the charges against that innocent black man are dropped officially, I'm still on y'all ass like white on rice. Because what it is that we've seen in this day and time is that these folks don't believe that we have community. These folks think that we're sitting this one out. These folks think that we are scared and that we aren't willing to stand up for ourselves and for our people. And with folks like Joel Tenney, who like comments like this one at the bottom that says, "I see a tree limb right there," the message is very clear on what he was trying to do when it came to that black man in Washington, D.C. In one video caption mentioning his 2A, and in another video verbally saying that he wanted to stomp that man's face in. And since you emailed me yesterday, Joel, I know you're watching. I'll remove my video as soon as you drop the charges. Sound like a deal? Because unlike you, my goal is to de-escalate the violence against my people. Your move. A MAGA couple in D.C. just pulled a Carolyn Bryant this week and got an innocent man arrested because they lied, claiming that this man threatened their lives.
So this guy just said he wanted to murder our baby as we were walking past, and now they're gonna put him under arrest. He said, "I'm gonna murder your wife and baby."
Yeah, he literally said that. This guy right there, when we're walking past,
So we're gonna press charges.
he said he wanted to kill our white baby. How sick can people be? This is disgusting. I'm completely outraged. You can't even walk down the streets of Washington, D.C. without people acting like this. Thank God we reported it to the police and they're dealing with the guy.
So what's the actual story, Joel Tenney and Sarah Elizabeth? Was it white baby or wife and baby? Because because that kind of distinction does not go unnoticed. And you know what else doesn't go unnoticed? A third different story than the one in the actual video when the incident had just occurred, when it was very fresh in you and your wife's mind. Your recap of words was very different than your wife's in the video. And in your caption on Instagram, it's also very different on what it is that the man said to you or that you claim he said to you. The fact that you mentioned that you weren't allowed to carry your 2A lets me know that you were looking to see a deceased Black person that night. But unfortunately, you didn't get your wish, did you? Because the reality is, Joel, you're no victim, you're a clout chaser. You are a fanatic looking to incite violence in my city.
Last night, while heading home from Joe's Seafood on 1500 Pennsylvania Avenue, 1 block from the White House, a black man approached my wife and my baby and I and said, "I'm going to kill your white girl. I'm going to kill your effing white baby." And he repeated it many times, and then he continued to call my wife a white B-word multiple times. And I had half a mind to stomp his head in.
And then you got upset when you found out that this innocent man did not have a previous record.
I don't have any knowledge of a violent history. Not at this time, but let me actually take 1 second. I would have to do some digging into his history in order to be able to
You might have to do a little research because you got about an hour and a half, and if this guy is a violent offender, hold on, Barb, you don't have to give us any information, but if this guy is a violent offender and there is some legal precedent to hold him, then he needs to be held because he could be a danger to the public and he could go and stab some baby. He could kill some baby.
There's two things you missed in this scenario, Joel. The first one being filing a false police report and then getting an innocent man arrested. And number two, you thought this man was so disposable that putting on the internet that you would never think that this man has community. Well, I have another thought for you. Not only does this man indeed have community, but we will find every single bit of evidence that is necessary to get you and your wife charged. And like you guys, Joel and Sarah Elizabeth, I like using social media too, but I'm also boots on the ground with folks who are heavily within the court system. And while you probably thought that there was no one in the world that would keep that man safe, we keep him safe. Here are some updates from my previous video about the MAGA couple who got an innocent Black man arrested in DC this past week. And just to bring you up to speed, this couple pictured here, Joel Tenney and his wife, Sarah Elizabeth, accused an innocent Black man of claiming that he was going to unalive her and their baby. They made this false claim while literally being 1 to 2 blocks away from the White House, which is currently heavily policed. The second update is the Black man in this video, and I could only get a quick screen grab, was charged with felony threats with a hate bias enhancement. Based on information I received, this man has no prior record. I have found Joel's Facebook, Joel's LinkedIn, his TikTok, and his Instagram. And it is very apparent that his intention was to incite violence. Mentioning in his Instagram caption, with all these race-motivated unalivings and the death just yesterday of Charlie Kirk. Meanwhile, we all have seen who unalived Charlie Kirk, which was not somebody that was outside of his race. And Joel Tenney has yet to correct that caption. On a post that Joel Tenney put on his Facebook page, which was far different from his Instagram, he mentions the Ukrainian woman that was unalived by a Black man on a bus, and even mentions that Wonder Breads are now the minority race of the world and how they are marginalized and suffer from bigotry and racism. Because of the contacts that I have in the work that I do in DC and just overall grassroots, we are going to ensure that the brother that was unlawfully arrested because of this couple and their false claims, that he gets some semblance of justice. For the past 2 days, I've been sharing the story and updates about a MAGA couple who got an innocent Black man arrested. Joel Tenney and Sarah Elizabeth Tenney claimed that upon leaving their dinner at Joe's Seafood in DC, that a Black man allegedly said that he was going to unalive Sarah Elizabeth and their baby. And for the past 2 days, people have asked me if I had any updates, if we have any way to help the brother that has been falsely accused. And well, I do have some updates. And for the audience, feel free to grab a seat while you get this tea. But this message is specifically to Joel Tenney, who thought that that Black man didn't have community or have support. Hey Joel, in one of your videos, you actually claimed that that man's record should have been looked into a little bit deeper because you found him to be violent, actually very violent.
I don't have any knowledge of a violent history? Not at this time, but let me actually take 1 second. I would have to do some digging into his history in order to be able to get
You might have to do a little research because you got about an hour and a half, and if this guy is a violent offender, hold on, Barb. If he, you don't have to give us any information, but if this guy is a violent offender and there is some legal precedent to hold him, then he needs to be held because he could be a danger to the public. And
while Barb informed you, Joel Tenney, that that man did not have a violent criminal history or record, you said that she should dig a little deeper. And I thought, light bulb moment, Joel Tenney. And with $1 and a dream and public records, I dug a little deeper. And oddly enough, I found a criminal record of someone who has a similar name to you. Now, could possibly be a mix-up, and there's multiple Joel Tenneys in the world born on August 7th, 1996, just like your Facebook says. Because I would hate that when this black man has to sue you, that this information would make itself apparent in court. Because not only was this Joel Tenney from Iowa charged with 1 count of criminal sexual misconduct in the 3rd degree, but convicted of a 2nd count of criminal sexual misconduct in the 5th degree. And that violent guy who shares your name got 2 years of probation. Gee willikers, Joel. But listen, I have an idea. You can take down the post making the false claim against the black man who did absolutely nothing to you and your wife, and you can drop the charges immediately. Because you know, Joel, as a Christian, God forgives. So do the Christian thing, Joel, so that we don't have to use the power of public records